All right, episode 146. We are talking about the real estate market, the shifting real estate market, and how to have empowering conversations with your sellers and buyers. We're going to get started right now. All right, episode 146. Today we're talking about the shifting real estate market and how we can have those empowering conversations with our sellers and buyers. Today the Fed has announced, not shockingly, that they are raising their rate by 0.75 of a point. So, and the good news is everyone was expecting it. So mortgage rates went down and the stock market went up. So
that's a very good thing. My mentality went sideways for a little bit, but everyone calmed me down. I brought a bunch of White Claws into our operations office. I was like, cash it in, boys and girls. We're going home and riding into the sunset. They're like, no, thank you. We're working. I was like, whatever. But rates went down. Markets went up. We'll see what happens on Monday. Monday will be critical.
You know what other market is up? Armadillo's market.
I would think so.
Yeah. The home warranty market. Armadillo.1/tour. Look, if you're needing a good home warranty company, connect with the Ron Smith, the best home warranty rep. In fact, he's trying to hook me up on not hook me up, like he's not giving me a deal. He should be, but come on, Ron. On my lake house.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so, I was asking him, and look, he shot me straight. In fact, I'll read you a text message right now by the Ron, because we practice what we preach here.
Yes, we do.
And, he's looking at some rates for me. And he's like, look, both of these have septic add-ons. The standard plan with the annual pricing, with an additional HVAC unit, it's about $1,064. If you want the premium plan with annual pricing, it's about $1,423 with an additional HVAC system. The premium plan has higher limits across the board, like a $7,500 limit on the dishwasher. So look, Ron's going to hook you up. The Ron will take care of you.
That's a pretty in-depth analysis. And he's not wrong. I don't know much about lake houses. I just know that one time when we went to Nick's, we had the choice of either boiling water for dinner or showering or taking a poop. And we couldn't do all three.
That was fun.
We just couldn't do it. We just we all had to vote. We voted to poop.
Yeah, I think that's the most important one.
I think it is too.
So if you're looking at a good home warranty, if you're looking to poop and you need a good home warranty company, connect with the Ron Smith over at Armadillo, armadillo.1/tour. And then, look, after you're done doing all that business, connect with Mortgage Mike, or maybe you can just go to Mortgage Mike app. And do all of the business and submit that loan application, because he's giving those Mortgage Mike stamps of approval. He just got back from St. Louis.
Yes.
So I'm sure he's got some cool ideas and strategies to really help your buyers and your clients win in this volatile, interest rate market, this volatile shifting real estate market, everything.
He just started a YouTube channel too, so we got to get him to 100 subscribers so he can have his own unique URL, youtube.com/Mortgage Mike Stamp. I'm trying to get it locked down for him. But you need 100 subscribers, right?
Something like that.
I think it's 100 subscribers. Yeah. You know who doesn't have 100 subscribers? Homeward DFW, because we don't have a YouTube channel for the property management company, but you can go to homewarddfw.com and check out the best property management company in DFW. We've been so blessed to have so many referrals from you guys, and I think we've taken care of a lot of awesome people. Dana is absolutely crushing it over on the property management side, and we've been expanding there. So if you're looking for legit property management for your clients with accountability and great service, guess what? The dudes sitting here are the ones that own it, so we're accountable to it. So send us your clients, your own investment properties. We'll take great care of you, and visit homewarddfw.com to learn more. And that's all the sponsors. It's been a weird day.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I would say that, look, we're hearing all the negative news now. It's getting worse and worse and worse in terms of what people are posting. I mean, everyone, the public opinion is really going wild right now. Oh, I guess he did give me.
He did. We just totally shamed him.
Well, I wasn't gonna say that you gave me a discount.
Did we block Theron from watching the fucking podcast? Why does he
I
always
have
show
no
his
idea why it
Facebook
comes up like
user?
that. No, he's legit on it. It's just depending on who page he's watching on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how this.
He's
stuff
got to go
works.
accept it or whatever.
Gotcha.
Yeah, whatever.
Just
it is.
accept it, Theron.
So-
Just accept it.
But
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I should correct myself. Maybe it's not like we're hearing all the doom and gloom and stuff. I don't mean to be rude. The Federal Reserve doesn't really even know what they're doing most of the time because they only have one tool to curb it. Like they have a dual mandate, that is to keep inflation at 2% or as close to it as possible and keep unemployment below, I believe, 6%, right? But they only have one tool to do that, and that's interest rates. They go up or down. What they can't predict is human behavior in reaction to those rate decreases or increases. So even the Federal Reserve doesn't really know exactly what they're doing all the time. The general public, by the way, is like the least trustworthy demographic of people. So when we say like the doom and gloom, everybody's posting all the negative news, guys, we do have rate hikes because we are trying to curb inflation. When that works and that takes root, that's a good thing for the economy. It will get inflation back towards 2%, which is the goal. And this is the only mechanism by which we can really do that. Unless you want to start going door to door and convincing people to stop spending money on consumer items, we only really have rate hikes to curb inflation. And so that's what we're trying to utilize right now. At some point, that's going to work. And so rates are going to fall somewhere, as far as like mortgage rates and things like that, are going to fall somewhere in the range of probably 5 to 7% before inflation really starts to curb itself. That's not bad. Also, just understand that, like, I think we have this viewpoint that, like, the Federal Reserve raised rates. They're so mean. They're crushing us. They just killed us, right? Like, it's for a reason. There's a purpose. We're trying to curb inflation. What's worse than having rate hikes is having 8.5 or 8.6% year over year inflation. That makes everything more expensive. So I don't want to go like into a whole lesson around like where inflation comes from and how it goes up and down. But like, understand this is hopefully a good thing long term. This shouldn't be all doom and gloom. Despite how I was acting earlier in my day when I was being annoyed about this, this is a good thing long term.
Look, the hard part in this is that this is whatever is we're starting to experience is not a typical pullback, right? So in a normal recessionary pullback, the Fed usually, the government and the Fed will start printing more money. And during 2020, we printed a lot of, in the last 2 years, we printed a lot of money. And so
Yes.
I don't think that we're going to see that again because that's one of the reasons why we've seen this inflationary period go to the point that it's gotten.
Kelderman and I had this conversation the other day, right? Yeah. Like this is the fine line and the tightrope that the Federal Reserve tries to walk, and I'll keep this as short as possible so we don't like tend to.
I think this is good info though, because like there's so much that I took from this conversation. Like before, like people kind of tune out to the data sometimes. Like it's really actionable when you're talking to people. I made just a little like word post about an hour ago about where the market's going and how there's still advantage and opportunities there, but it came directly from this conversation that you're talking about.
So I'll try to keep it brief, but like take 2020 for example, right? What happens economically when you're talking about either times of like really, really good economic advancement and then contraction? Only a couple things happen. In 2020, we had a big economic pullback because we shut everything down, like artificial pullback, basically. Nobody could go to work, everything closed. And so what happens, right? Like businesses can't make money, people are getting laid off, and so they're spending way less, and the economy just collapses, right? Nobody's spending money anymore. And so you have a huge economic pullback, right? That's the exact opposite of what is happening now. The reaction to the economic pullback was print money because people can't work, a lower rate so that people can afford to buy stuff. And then what do? You get a lot of artificial money put into the system. And then what do people do 2 years later? They're fucking spending it, all of it. And what happens when you spend it, when you put a lot of money into a system and it gets spent? Well, demand increases, which means production costs increase, which means products cost more. That causes inflation. The only thing you can do to stave off inflation is raise Federal Reserve rates, which in turn makes borrowing rates a little bit higher, which makes production costs, which adjusts production costs, hopefully stops consumer spending before things continue to increase price-wise. The risk that you run there is that market sentiment adjusts so quickly that when people see rates raise and things start to adjust, people don't get back to the middle. They go into panic mode and they hear the doom and gloom. They hear recession, rate hikes, and then they tighten up so much that then we go into a period of complete non-spending again, and we completely fishtail the other way. And so when the Federal Reserve is trying to walk this tightrope of 2% inflation and sub 6% unemployment, they never really hit it. They just fishtail back and forth for a few years at a time, and they can't hit the target because they don't have control over consumer behavior. You can't convince 330 people to act, 330. You couldn't even convince 330. You certainly can't convince 330 million to act in unison in a certain way that would keep inflation where it is. And so that's why it's so difficult to hit the mark on these things. But the 2020 sort of flash recession was almost the exact opposite of the causes for the recession that we're probably headed into right now. It's the exact opposite side of the coin.
Yeah, so you're not everyone who's just talking out of one side of the mouth is trying to compare it to something, and this we don't have something to compare it to, right? What we do know is that people will buy houses even though rates are going up. What we do know is that people will sell houses even as inventory levels increase, even as the economy gets maybe even worse news, right? Sure. You know, one thing I was hearing that the news was talking about, kind of explaining the Fed increases is look, it's almost like someone who is going through chemo to treat cancer, right? It's going to kill off the cancer, but it also kills off the good cells. Yeah. And so during this time, you start to choke out some of the good in the economy. And you have to do that right now in order to realign and relevel where we need to get going.
Well, and Brian brought something up the other day, because this is a space where I tell people this because we have, not only do we have agents on the team, but also me, myself, there are times when I get lost in this conversation. There's a lot of moving parts, and it's stuff that I don't fundamentally understand. So like, if you're hearing this stuff and you're like, what in the fuck are they talking about? Like, first off, realize there's somebody sitting at this table who also feels that way. And that's why I go to these two guys. Brian did say something though, that I think is relevant to this part of the conversation though, that has to do with market sentiment. And it has a lot to do with how information is disseminated to people, right? And I think it relates exactly what you're talking about the Fed fishtailing, right? We react so much faster just because information gets beamed into our brain so much quicker. Yep. And we see this even with agents. I feel this in my own business, sometimes spinning in circles, trying to make decisions on what the next move is and what I need to do. And if you're feeling that way, understand, that's normal, right? Part of that is data collection and going to people who understand shit at a higher level than you, but also understanding that we do live in a world that's different than even our last recession. In 2008, understand, right? Like these things were a year old, right? Like most of us still had BlackBerries. I certainly did not have an iPhone in 2007. Mm. And in 2008, the recession started happening,
You still needed a college, you needed a .edu email address to get on Facebook.
Yeah, I didn't even get on Facebook until 2009, right? Like, and so like my whole point being is this thing right here has brought up an unbelievable ability for information to come into your brain at a faster rate, which also makes you pivot in a way that maybe you wouldn't have pivoted before because you would have to go search the information. So I encourage everybody, agents, consumers, everybody alike, to go out and do a little bit of research past the headline part. I post that today. Your local market probably isn't exactly what you're hearing on a national level at all.
By the way, did we talk about this last week? Or maybe if we did, it doesn't matter, because this is about still having those conversations with your future buyers and sellers. Is, don't you remember, again, we did bring this up last week. Yeah. A few months ago, the consumer sentiment was that it was not a great time to buy a house.
Right.
All of a sudden, I guarantee you the consumer sentiment is that it's not a great time to buy a house.
What email did you send to us about 5 hours
we do
ago?
A poll, and 80% we do a poll every single week, and 80% of the respondents last week said they were less likely to buy a house in this market.
Is it because of what they think is going to happen with
because of headlines?
Yes, and that is
because of what people are being told. And by the way, that is, and I want to get, I don't want to interrupt you. I don't want to lose this thought. When you say that there's the national market probably isn't spot on with your local market, there's no such thing as a national housing market. No. Have you ever had a buyer call you and they're like, I need to buy a house, and you're like, where are you looking? And you're like, America.
Yeah.
No, they're not looking in America. I don't even like when
they tell me 3 cities in DFW.
Yeah,
I'm like, shit.
Even when they're 20 miles apart, the cities, you're like, that's pretty far. You should probably narrow it down because you're going to have a long commute or something. Nobody's looking in America for a home. They're looking in a local market. So there's no such thing as a national housing market. I just want to put that out there. If you're like listening to headlines about America's housing market doesn't exist, by the way.
Hey,
Just
Brian, how do you feel about economists?
Jesse and I were watching CNBC earlier, and this is just like my favorite thing. Like we were looking at Jerome Powell's talking points, and just first of all how they contradicted one another, and then they were talking to other economic directors from different like Federal Reserve or different other reserve banks, and talking about like Fed Reserve like sentiment and like confidence, and it's like just below nothing. Like they're paid puppets to tell you things that like in one sentence, one of Jerome Powell's talking points was that we're in a strong economic position. And it's literally 2 talking points later, it was like, this environment is clearly unstable. And it's like, you're either bipolar or you don't remember what you just said 30 seconds ago. Like, which version of you are we getting right now? Like, but we know this. We know this about America. We know this about politicians. We know this about bureaucracy. And I think the only reason that we're able to see it with the Federal Reserve is that they're not as polarizing as like maybe like presidential candidates, where like if you're on certain teams, you just believe everything they say, and if you're on the other team, you believe everything they say.
College
right?
sports all day.
Everyone hates the Fed. They know that they're wrong all the time. We're like so easily able to point out like that's bullshit, but we're like not able to do that in the rest of our bureaucratic life. Like when your own political candidate says something, you're like, well, what he really meant was like, and you're like, no, that's bullshit. Like everybody's wrong all the time. Can we just be honest with each other? Nobody knows what's happening. There are too many people in this country and not enough smart people running it. Let's just admit it. Guys, we don't know what we're doing.
I love the idea that the Federal Reserve's entire thing is just to keep the car from fishtailing off the road.
It's all they do.
Like it's a 5-lane highway. Like just think about it. Like if you've ever played a video game, you've been super shitty at driving the car. For those of you who played Halo the very first and tried to drive the Warthog. How hard was it to drive a Warthog when that thing first came out? It was impossible. You were all over the place, right?
Fucking
the Federal Reserve is doing
engine and steering.
Yeah, the Federal Reserve is doing the same thing. They're driving a Warthog. It's their first time playing Halo.
That might be the best analogy ever dropped on this show.
Reel that one.
Yeah.
That's the only. From now on, let's just use that.
Market 8, dude.
Yeah. Let's chat about having conversations with our sellers, because what we're going to now enter into is that that range. It's almost the firing squad range.
Sure.
I want to call it no man's land, but I don't know if we're allowed to say that anymore.
Is
no person's land?
No person's land. All right.
Oh, you're thinking gender. I was thinking race. I was like,
I was just like,
yeah.
Okay.
I'm just making sure, right?
Yeah.
But we're entering into that period, and over the next 90 days, we'll see a lot of this, where we will start seeing.
Sometimes
right,
the comments just stop us down, and I don't know what. I don't know which one we used. I'm sorry.
I know. And look, I actually pop over to me real quick. We do apologize. Like in all sincerity, we're not using it out of any like anger to like fire stuff up. And I do appreciate that you might be listening to this someplace publicly, Shirley. Also, we just also think that like sometimes words don't matter, and they can be super powerful in conveying a message.
That's fair.
But we do that sometimes.
All right,
we're sorry, Shirley.
Let's go back to the no person's land zone that we're about to be headed into.
Let's do it.
Over the next 90 days, and make sure that you don't use a 4-letter word, Brian.
Stop it.
So, Brian. So what we can do is over the next 90 days, we're going to see more listings coming on the market, right? We're already starting to see that now. By the way, everyone is posting how listings are coming up, and everyone's posting about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. And I guess the conversation between them two is that you should list with whomever that realtor is at that time, which is so stupid. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the next 90 days, you're going to see a lot more agents come aboard. They're going to list houses. They're going to be overpriced. They're going to not set the proper expectations with that client.
Yes.
The client, their mind when it comes to selling their house, they actually live 6 to 12 months behind.
Stay on this for a minute, because this is the important part of this conversation.
Absolutely.
Is the expectations
I
part.
absolutely think this is the most important conversation, that we're going to have on the show today, right? And this is, I think it's important when we frame this conversation to take a step back for a second and understand why this is happening in the first place. And I've said this before. I have even said at our team meeting yesterday, I'm going to continue to say this. This is just going to be my mantra for eternity. opportunity never vanishes. It simply manifests itself differently, right? There is absolutely opportunity in this market, as much opportunity as there was in any other market. You just need to have different conversations to be able to educate people better. Okay, so let's say a lot of inventory comes on the market. And right now in North Texas, we've been hovering on a trailing 7 days. In this particular North Texas market, we've been hovering at about a 58% ratio of price decreases to new listings. So like, let's say 3,000 new listings come on in 7 days. We have like 1,600 price reductions as well. That seems like doom and gloom, and it's actually a really good thing, because what would be really bad is if a lot of inventory came on the market, nothing sold, and nobody wanted to reduce their price. The reason that this is happening is because we've had this insane pricing run up, which correlates with inflation and everything else getting more expensive. Gas, houses, rice. Rice, I don't really know rice, but whatever. Milk. You know what I mean?
Go with milk.
Milk's a good one. We do this thing with inflation where we measure milk prices. Like, who's buying all this milk? Guys, just drink water. Anyway, people have more equity in their homes than at any point in history, right? And so what we have are a lot of sellers still raising their hand saying, I want to sell. We have agents probably not either having fierce conversations with them or maybe setting poor expectations. And then we also have sellers that very quickly are going, okay, I priced it too high. I'm still motivated to sell. Let's decrease it. That doesn't mean that prices are dropping. That means that prices are equalizing towards market value in relation to wages and affordability. That's a good thing. That's a sign of a balanced market, right? And so when we preach doom and gloom, if you're talking on the sell side, what is your benefit for sellers right now? Okay, you may not get 50 offers, $1 bajillion over asking price, but unless this is the last home you're ever going to buy, you're going to have more options to choose from when you go to purchase on the other side. The biggest bugaboo that kept inventory low for the last couple of years. How many times you've had a conversation with a seller that said, "We would love to take advantage of this market and sell, and we don't know where we're going to go. We can't time the market properly. We don't want to compete with 50 other buyers, and we can't do a contingent offer. We're screwed." That's why inventory was so low for so long, right? So that's the benefit to the sellers, is that they got all of the upside of all of the price increases for the last 2 years. Everyone else in this local market, and really in all local markets, did the heavy lifting for them. They sold at a time when prices were continuing to trend upward, which set the benchmark for market value going forward. Even if we overshot that by a little bit, when we come back to equilibrium, you're still going to have more equity in your home than at any point in history. And now you're going to have more inventory on the market when you make your next move. And now you can time it out properly, have a contingent offer if you need to, have more options to choose from, and you're not going to, and that's your benefit as a seller. On the buy side, the exact opposite is true. You may lock in a higher rate. And this is where I will old man you a little bit. You agents that are saying out there like, well, it doesn't really matter what rates were in the 80s. That's not what people are expecting right now. If you have not learned anything between now, if you have not learned anything between March of 2020 and now, it is that people's expectations of how their lives are supposed to be can change on a fucking dime. I am so sorry, Shirley. That was a 6-letter, 7-letter word, but they can change on a dime. I'm not kidding at all, right? So this idea that people won't get used to how things are, give it 90 days, bro. People get used to how things are. The trade-off is on the buy side, you may lock in a mid-6 rate right now. You know what you're not going to have to do? Bring an extra $75,000 to the closing table that really isn't equity unless all of the other neighbors list at the same price too, right? And if you wanted to take, I used the example yesterday in our team meeting. If you wanted to go, let's say, from a 6.25 rate to a 3.25 rate, and you wanted to buy that rate down on a $500,000 loan, you know how much that would cost you? About $60,000. The same amount that 3 months ago you would have had to pay over asking price, and you would have had to guarantee your appraisal, no home warranty, you're paying for title, and don't you dare ask for repairs. Opportunity is always there. It just manifests itself differently. If you're on the buy side right now, do you know what kind of position you're in as compared to 3 months ago? About the same, because you're going to lock in a higher rate, but you're going to be able to negotiate a different price, and you're going to have a way more advantage during the transaction process, and you're going to have more inventory to choose from. There's opportunity on both sides. You got to frame it right.
Right, but I'm going to tell you, you got to sexify it. I'm going to tell you if how you explained it.
Well, yeah,
there's-
you might have
there's
to have
zoning
sex
now.
with some people.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
not saying
that's for both sides of the conversation.
right.
You have to tailor this to your clients, to their needs, to like all of that.
To
shit,
the
yeah.
marketplace,
Or
though.
to your
the
marketing,
marketplace,
yes.
right? The message needs to match the market, and the average consumer. Look, it's just like in the political world. In the political world, you need to talk at an 8th grade level or lower, right? And from that angle, it needs to come in and say, really, really hone in on sellers. What sellers are going to do is they're now hearing that the economy is starting to pull back. So just like when people enter the game too late, they're still trying to, it's like when people were hearing about, what was that crypto that everyone jumped on, that
Doge.
Doge, right? By the time you really heard about it, it was already too late,
Yeah.
right? So these are the Doge buyers trying to come in and sell and still get 50 offers. And so
Yes.
you need to make it more relatable where it's like you slip in some numbers like you do.
Yeah.
So take Brian's, listen to Brian, slip it in, and also make it from a better understanding where it doesn't seem like, use it as a story, like the Dogecoin, or use it.
People talking stories. That's a good
Yes.
point. This is where I struggle. I tend to try and beat people over the head with data.
You're great with data.
People learn in stories.
Yes, and you're the best at getting the data. You're the best at really, really telling us about the data. Now, an agent's job is to take that and to relate it to your consumers, to your clients. And why should they sell now, right? The opportunity is still there to go get a great price. The opportunity, if you are going to move up, is now even greater because, like you said, you don't have to compete against all those other offers.
Right.
You probably don't even have to use some of those buy before sell programs that cost
Right.
you a little bit of extra money that we were using during the 2020 and 2021.
Sure.
So, the good news, and like you said, we can now ask for a home warranty. We might even be able to ask for some seller closing costs or,
Yep.
or concessions. You could also see about buying down your interest rate. There's a lot of toys
Do you know
that
what
you could put.
else you could do, which we touched on a lot in team meeting yesterday, which I don't know that anybody is really thinking as much about as they should be? This is where I don't have any data, but I tried to Google it yesterday and I came up empty. How many assumable VAs, let's just take our North Texas market, how many VAs and FHA loans do you think were locked in between 2015 and 2019?
I don't know about that.
Tens of thousands
Yeah.
at minimum.
But I don't know if you're talking about assuming those loans. My understanding, we need Mortgage Mike on for this, is that after a certain time period, FHA did not become assumable. So it was like 2006. We were doing that, and we were seeing that as an option before 2006, 2007, assuming FHA loans.
Jesse on the DJ booth.
Yeah, let's look that up.
VA's always been. So regardless, I'm trying to paint a picture of opportunity manifesting itself. Your VA buyers especially were not competing for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
They just didn't, man. They just didn't. And so now there's an opportunity out there. I don't know, man. I'm pretty sure. Can Mortgage Mike chime in the comments? I'm pretty sure they are. Just Google R. Are they assumable?
Is.
Just Google are they assumable? RFHA loans. There you go. And yeah, what are you even talking about, Nick? That's even on HUD.gov. Gosh, we're reading a real official PDF.
Well, you understand it doesn't mean just because it's on there. I think it also is in the closing documents. FHA doesn't actually have a standard credit score. That's the investor requires that.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, so
Right.
it'd have to be what's in the closing documents, not what FHA.
Are they? Do you think they're not putting it in the closing documents right now?
I want to say that I've heard that before, that they weren't doing that anymore.
Let's ask Mike.
Yep.
You got to qualify for a mortgage though. I mean, understand you have to. Yeah, it should be assumable if you qualify. Thank you, Facebook user. I don't know.
That's probably the Ron.
That's probably there.
Probably the Ron.
Somebody's got to text me because I can't read your names when you comment.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I apologize. Yeah, see, you got to qualify. Oh yeah, you got to qualify for the mortgage regardless. You wouldn't get it even if you. Yeah, yes, you have to qualify. I'm not saying. What I'm saying is, opportunity again manifests differently, right? It's there we go. Thank you. That's Rachel Tex Carter saying they are assumable. Nick. weird, awkward silence
That
after that.
was.
All right. So, yes. How many of your VA and FHA buyers that didn't even compete for the last 2 years, and we've lost the feed, have not even competed for the last 2 years? Thank you.
Yep, it's on me.
Have an opportunity now to possibly lock in a lower rate from a assumable mortgage on at least a good portion of their loan, and VAs as well, right? We are scrambling on the A and B side right now.
I'm just mimicking
Right.
what you're saying.
You're doing like subtitles. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw
well,
some.
it's not subtitles. I'm just
Well,
you're
yeah.
saying it and I'm
All right,
mouthing
I'm
it.
gonna throw some. Curveballs at you. Unique New York. Unique New York. The human blowtorch was denied a blank loan. See, I messed up my own words. I can't even do that. Right. So like, yeah, I don't. Anyway, I say that to say
By the way,
yes.
Rachel, it does with lender participation. So my understanding, because lenders have the wording in, like they can change it up. So
let me ask you this: in a market where FHA buyers have not even been able to compete for a pretty long time now, or VA buyers, and they have to participate in an assumable mortgage, do you think that they don't want to do loans?
who doesn't want to do loans?
Lenders. So why wouldn't, if they're going to lose the, this is capitalism, right? If there's an opportunity to serve more buyers.
Right, but you have to see what's in the paperwork, though. It's kind of like it's like,
Right.
can you go and owner finance
just saying-
out
we're just
can
saying-
you go owner finance at your property if
I
you
hear
have a
you,
loan
yeah.
on it? It's
No,
like,
I get what you're saying.
No, you can't. Well, you can, but you can't because if they want to accelerate the due on sale clause, they will.
Right. I'm just saying it's lender policy is what it comes down to,
Yes.
basically. Wouldn't lender policy be doing what's best for the lender's company?
I don't know. Again, this is going off of what I've heard in the past. So,
I just had a real mortgage lender tell me that it was
but now
totally
she's
cool.
also saying, I'm looking up your stuff, Nick. You have me double checking myself. LOL.
Now she's reading all her paperwork. I'm
Yes.
telling you, there's opportunity out there, guys. It's just like anything else. If that's an opportunity for lenders, lenders are going to change their policy and participate. The federal government does not say that you can't do it, is what I'm saying. And so I
FHA
believe
allows for lender overlays, and they can say no. Some lenders could say, nah, dude. But that comes down to the Moby.
Thank you. Can you? I'm so sorry. Can you identify
That's
yourself?
Tex Carter.
Was that her again? Well,
Yeah.
they all say Facebook user. We got to figure this system out better.
I don't
This is
know why it does
bananas.
that.
No, it's
I
because
know.
she needs to accept on
Okay.
her end.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, I was. What a freaking roundabout way to just say that yes, that you can do this.
But possibly not.
but probably you can. They're not going to say no to you. Yes, I don't know why you would say no. If you
She's
don't,
saying, I don't know why she's not showing up.
yeah, me neither. But I don't know why you would say no to the loan either. You're just going to go to another lender and who's going to say yes.
No. It's not, bro. It's not the lender. It's not going to Mortgage Mike. Let's say you have an FHA assumable loan. You can't go to. It's not going to Mortgage Mike. You're trying to assume the loan of the homeowner, correct?
Right.
Yes. So it's what was in that original
It's the
closing
original
documents.
loan. Yes.
So it's not. It's
I get
not
that.
going to a different lender. Like I'll
If
just
you
go to somebody
qualify
else.
though, why would they say no?
Because they can. And what you want to know why they say no? Because you're probably assuming at a lower rate. So they're wanting to get those higher rates in there. Correct?
You're not going to use them for the loan anyway.
I understand.
I'm
Look,
just going to use Mortgage Mike.
why? What are you talking about?
If I'm buying a house
Yes.
and I'm assuming the loan, okay, but I also have to take
Just
out
lost a lot of viewers.
I still have to take. This is
So
good
many
information. This is
users.
probably the most important thing we're going to talk about on the show today. I still have to take out a second mortgage because that loan I'm assuming is not going to cover the sales price. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not assuming that loan and that's the only loan I get. I get a second loan from Mortgage Mike or whomever,
Yeah,
and that's how I finance the house. So if that first lender says, no, I can't assume this, I'm not using them to buy the
Well,
house.
the question would be, and Rachel and or Mortgage Mike or whomever other lender, can you assume that loan and go get a secondary loan? That would be the question.
That's the only way you do it.
No, you pay cash. You pay the cash difference.
You would
Yes.
take out I mean, you could, but more and more often than not, you're going to take out a second lien on the home.
Yes, I don't think that's how back then how they were working. That's not how it was working.
You'd had to pay cash?
You either pay the difference, or a lot of that you could work out. There was creative financing deals.
So explain that, a creative financing deal.
Creative financing meaning a lot of times, like when we saw it, especially during the recession, you could go find these and find people that were in distress, right? So then you go and say, all right, Brian, you're in financial distress. Here's what I'm going to assume your loan, right? I'm going to make
Right.
those payments. I'm then going to go and I'm either getting in this house for a lot cheaper. I may pay you $5,000 just to get out.
Yes.
Cash for keys type deal, or I'm going to rent it out at a higher rate. So the question is, what I don't know, and this is where where the lenders would need to chime in
Right.
from a lending side, because what they're looking at, you assume an FHA loan, FHA, are they going to be the first lien holder? The second mortgage company is not going to like to be in a second position.
Sure, 100%. I think that we're talking about an entirely different environment in which we were influenced on our opinions about these types of things, though, right? Like in a distressed situation, it operates entirely differently than a fully qualified buyer who would qualify for both mortgage companies. Absolutely no problem whatsoever.
Most mortgage companies are not going to do that. I'll put money on the line.
Really?
Yep.
For what reasons?
Because that is non-traditional financing. So you could probably maybe go to a credit union and go and get maybe a personal loan to go do that, or you're going to pay cash, or maybe you get a private party lender to be the second.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're saying because the second mortgage company wouldn't want to be the second lien holder?
Correct.
Why wouldn't you just do the mortgage through the first mortgage company?
But
Qualify
you're
for the whole
assuming.
thing.
What are you talking about? You're assuming the loan.
Right. What I'm saying is if you use the same lender for the other lien, then it's the same party that's holding both notes.
Not necessarily. No, they sell it off. No.
Why wouldn't they sell it to the... Oh, my
No,
gosh.
that's not how it works, bro.
I know.
That's exactly not how it works.
No, I get it. They wouldn't
Yes.
sell it. You would just get approved to the same investor.
Again, they're not. That's not. Then they're going to raise the rate on you. You're
For
assuming.
the second part.
I don't think they'll do that
Why?
because that's not how it works.
That I'm talking about capital markets opening up. What I'm talking about is the future. You like if I had told you right now, listen.
Yes.
If I had told you right now that ninja loans were a responsible thing to do, would you agree? Of course not, right? I'm saying that opportunity comes into markets where it manifests itself. That would be good business for mortgage companies to do. And I believe that they will start doing things like that.
Maybe they will, but at this moment they're not.
No,
And we're talking about. I'm
I'm talking about opportunity manifesting itself differently.
Correct, but
I'm not
we're-
saying if you did this 2 months ago or even if you did it today,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have to overcome some hurdles. I'm
Yeah.
saying I believe this is absolutely how markets will develop in the future
And
because it makes perfect business sense for that original lien holder.
And it could, but at this very moment, that is not a viable option.
It's
That's not gonna get you
probably-
business
would,
now.
You would probably have to jump through some fences.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'd probably have to jump through some fences.
I don't disagree with you that could be a great. In fact, maybe you've stumbled onto something that it could be a great business that we all go start.
I think we own too many businesses.
But maybe this is the $1 billion
Maybe
business.
this is the big idea.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, the point I'm trying to make is
Irregardless.
opportunity, irregardless. Let's be proper.
Yes, proper.
Irregardless, right? Opportunity manifests itself differently, right? This changes absolutely nothing about the markets, right? Buyers have a big advantage right now. Sellers have more equity than they've ever had before. We're in the exact same situation, just on another side of the coin, than we were a year ago or even 3 months ago, right? And so, anyway, I say this to say, I love it. I love when we do that. He doesn't even realize yet. So
I'm
good.
here.
He's here. I love it. Right. One of the most difficult markets that real estate agents have had to navigate is one in which we have very low inventory and buyers can barely get anything under contract because we have 50 offers on every single house. If you woke up one day and the market had radically changed from a balanced market to you're going to have to show every buyer 100 homes, write down a bajillion offers, and convince them to do crazy things just to get a house. And oh, by the way, very few people are going to want to sell too because their houses are worth so much. Would you choose that market? No, of course not, right? You would probably choose a market closer to what we're heading towards. And so the doom and gloom around the real estate agents and with the future of what we're doing, all this type of stuff, like, guys, understand these are not bad things. Bad things are us continuing to operate in this incredibly ridiculous environment that we've been operating really since the start of the pandemic. This was always inevitable. What I will say, though, is you've had buyers that are willing to act really exuberantly and really ridiculously and almost irresponsibly. And so agents that were kind of coasting on their buyers willing to do whatever it was to get under contract and only working buy-side deals, they're going to have a very difficult time in the future markets. Like, it just is. You're going to have to be very good at what you do. You're going to have to come from a place from real contribution. You're going to have to really know what you're talking about.
Do you think, and one, if an agent has struggled already, in the markets that we've been in, they're probably going to end up out of the business over the next 18 months or less. And if you don't have a system to go find listings, then you're right. As the pendulum swings into that buyer's market, we could quickly start to see inventory go to 6+ months. We're seeing in some markets, like in Arizona, it's doubled in the past 30 days of active homes for sale.
I mean, I think we're probably pretty close here in North Texas, I would assume, inventory-wise, just tracking the numbers of new listings coming on. I wouldn't doubt that at all. It's not a bad thing, though, right? It's very difficult to succeed in a market where very few homes are coming on the market. I mean, or very few homes are coming up for sale. You're going to have good conversations with your sellers. You're going to have great conversations with your buyers. You're going to have to legitimately educate people. And I think more than anything, and this is something that we haven't talked about in a very long time that I think has just gotten lost in translation somewhere, you're going to have to provide a really good client experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
A really good client experience. We've gotten really, lazy is not the right word, but the idea of serving people at a very high level has kind of gone by the wayside the last couple of years.
It's been tough. And this, look, it sounds like an excuse. It's been tough, right? It's
either been tough or it's been unnecessary in some cases, right?
Well, a lot of people would say unnecessary, but at the same time, it's been tough when you try to factor in COVID to try to provide a great virtual experience, and or especially at the closing table when they weren't, you're doing remote closings or signing outside in a parking lot, then you were being the Pop-Tart agent and just running all over the place because, you had a buyer who that their house, the criteria for a certain house comes up for sale.
Right.
And then they just out the door. And, buyers get emotional when they lose on a property. And typically they blame the real estate agent because that's their venting post.
Yeah.
Who else are they to blame? Not themselves. They're going to blame the real estate agent.
Sure.
Whether that's fair or unfair, the consumers are the one deciding that, not us,
reality.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so I would say that it's probably a 60-40, where 40% was just saying it's unnecessary and 60% saying, like, we can't because of the type of market that we are in.
Sure. No, I agree 100%. And that's where I think a lot of, I think agents that maybe got into the business in the last couple of years are going to maybe struggle to find their footing a little bit in the new market. I think a lot of us maybe just forgot how much of it is our responsibility to provide great service. And we're going to have to get back in the habit of listings being on the market for 65 days before they go under contract, right? Walking your sellers through offers that are not at full price, and understanding the pros and cons of individual ones, right?
Well, let me tell you this. We took a listing today.
Yeah.
It was in our Boomtown account. It was trashed, by the way, back in 2019. I went and looked at it. The client emailed last night with one of our systems and said, I'm ready to sell now. And Nate runs the listing appointment. They had just come off the market, and they're actually upside down. And
wow, really?
they have their foreclosure date has been pushed a couple times. They've got now another 30 days. And we still believe that we could sell their house and break them even without going the short sale route. But this person has lived in their home a lot longer than the last 2 to 3 years. So, this
is just like a second mortgage type deal, and they just
people for whatever reason in their life, people fall on hard times. It doesn't, during the run up when everything was going great, something we talked about with our real estate agents is they always talked and posted about the good, but during great times, there's a lot of people going through tough times.
Absolutely.
Even when the unemployment's low, there's people that can't get a job, or they're struggling to find consistent work.
Sure.
And so, you start slipping up and you fall behind on your mortgage, and it's like taking a payday loan. And on the pay, it's hard to catch back up on that. And now it's a constant battle of pushing off foreclosure and bringing it back to life and pushing it off. and you never really catch back up.
Yeah.
And then the late fees start stacking up, and now they're at a point where they're desperate. They're at a point where they're scared, and they're just emotionally and mentally exhausted.
Yeah.
And so their last agent, unfortunately, because a lot of agents are so newer in this industry, has never dealt with something like this.
Sure.
And we use this analogy all the time, especially with Captain Force. You don't care who's flying the plane until something bad with the plane happens.
Yeah. 100%.
And now homeowners are really going to need to check out the agent they're hiring, because if they would have stayed longer with that other agent, more than likely they're going to have a foreclosure outcome. And we believe deep down that, number one, we're very confident that we should be able to get them at a break-even point. If not, it's not that much upside down that we should find a strategy to help them get out from underneath the house without going the foreclosure route.
Yeah.
There's going to be those coming up, and agents need to start studying.
Well, I think even, obviously if we don't get to a point, which I don't think we will, where I mean, geez, man, Jesse, if you pull this up, it was like NAR from 2010. Like agents in Texas did an X amount of deals, and I think it was like they averaged like 7 deals, and like the average of those deals that were in foreclosure was like 3 or something like that. It was like almost half of the deals that agents did were in some state of either like some state of the foreclosure.
Dude, I will tell you
We're not-
back then. I mean, I had people selling their houses that were cashing out their retirement and paying to get out of the house.
Yeah.
While we say like we're ready for this change in the economy, we're ready for this market to shift back. What you may not be ready for is, I will say that consumers, if you thought people took out frustrations on you during this time, let me tell you, when they're losing money, or when they think that it's not going in their advantage all the way, consumers can be really demeaning. They can be really mean.
Yeah. Jesse, do it's just the NAR. Do like NAR Texas Realtors Report 2010. They do a PDF report for every state every year, and that's where it is. It's like there's something like that. There you go. Just hit report, and there's a PDF that comes. Their annual report down there. So but that's 2013. If you maybe just change the URL to 2010, maybe it's I don't know. It might be from TAR instead. Maybe not an NAR. Maybe it's Texas Association of Realtors. Go up and Google just like TAR instead of NAR. That might be the problem. What I'm looking at. It's somewhere in here. Anyway, it was a ridiculously high percentage of like total deals per agent that were in foreclosure. We're not going to get to that point, right? Like that's not going to be the case in this market cycle. What I'm saying though is that we have got to get used to providing, especially on the seller side, because more inventory is coming on, which means there's more opportunity to take listings. We've done a great job of taking listings this month, and a great job of taking listings needs to turn into a great job of serving clients. Yes. I will also say this: taking listings is also going to get more competitive. Like when your home is going to sell, no matter what, you don't really care as much about who's listing it.
Yeah.
When you know that your home is competing against exponentially more homes in a competitive market for sellers, meaning that buyers have the upper hand, you very much care what the agent that you hire as your fiduciary is doing to sell your home. I know a lot of agents over the last couple of years that have never brought a listing like packet to an appointment. And really, I never do listing appointments. They just go, they talk about price, they throw it on the market, and when's photography going to be, right? You're going to need to get really dialed in on your presentation to people. What is your value? What do you do really well? Where are you coming from contribution? And get that conversation super dialed in. Your pricing strategy needs to be dialed in. You're going to lose listings initially to people that say they'll price things higher and sellers that go, that sounds great. You need to start crystal balling people and telling people, you know what? I totally understand you go in a different direction. If price is the only factor in the agent that you hire, I'm glad you hired the agent that told you that they listed for the highest price. Do I have permission to follow up with you in however many days when it doesn't sell for that price? We still have agents that are signing 30-day listing agreements because they're so out of touch with what is happening in the market. Then I'll say, I just straight up own it. Just ask, how long are you under contract with this agent? Okay, 30 days. Do you mind if I follow up on at 8 a.m. on day 31 when your home doesn't sell for the price that they promised you and we have a realistic conversation
by
about
the way,
getting
that's
sold?
the only value that agent knows.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. We've got to have more value than that if you're gonna thrive.
By the way, and this goes back to that long, when we went off the rails a little bit with the assumable FHA loans, is when you talk with your seller, when you talk with your buyers, it's not your presentation's great, I will tell you that, but it's what they want, and you need to truly find out what they want. Why? I will tell you, I will hands down beat everybody going into a listing presentation, and I don't bring anything other than my comps. And I sit there with a notepad, and I sit there and I have a conversation with them, and I learn what is the most important thing, because it's not the same with every single client.
So true.
So from that, I will hands down beat every single person, unless it comes down to the homeowner only wanting price, and if there's a discrepancy between what I'm saying it should be priced at versus what the other agents are saying.
I love that, because that's exactly like I said it in a totally different way, but I love to bring materials, and I love to bring them because I leave them with the client to answer questions that I didn't answer during the listing appointment. That's usually my entire bit. I try to find out you ask this question all the time. In the realtor that you hire, and you say, in the realtor that you eventually hire, what's the most important?
What are the top three things they're going to do for you?
Exactly. And then you just have the conversation there, right? Like,
so what
it feels weird. We used to talk about this stuff on the podcast all the time when we had to work for listings. We haven't talked about this in years, right? No. This used to be what the whole show was about, right? You do a great job of asking what are the three most important things to you in the realtor that you hire. And then you just have the conversation there. I do the same thing, and then I have our listing and marketing packet that I leave with them. I say, for all the questions that I didn't answer today and everything that's going to keep you up at night, here's every single thing that we're going to do to get your home sold in one little packet for you. You can read this, blah, 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 and call me with any questions or whatever. Like, I could articulate that entire packet word for word if I needed to, and I almost never pull it out. I just leave it with them when I'm done. But you're hitting the nail on the head. It's about the conversations you have.
Usually what I'll end up doing when I see other agents leave their packets on there is I'll shuffle my papers and I take it with me.
You're like low-key stealing from
and guess what, real estate agents? You guys may not like that, but
I mean, look,
all is fair.
I mean, look, I look for a competitive edge, and it's all about the advantage, and we have a belief system on our team that, our belief is that we're going to put our clients in the best position to win, and by hiring us, we know that we are we have the best tools, the best proven strategies to help, especially in this marketplace, get them to the desired outcome that they're looking for. That's it.
And I think that's one of the two things that you and Brian do really great, just as leaders, but also just as people kind of like objectively like viewing their business. You guys do switch into a wartime CEO mode, probably better than anybody I've personally met as far as determining what's going to be best for your people. Because here's the thing. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter whether or not you agree with somebody or not, right? Like whatever they're doing for their business or whatever their business model is or however they're approaching their business, we're all trying to feed our families and make better lives. And what I have learned through these past 5 weeks sitting here with you guys is that, like, at the end of the day, like, all the advice we're giving is the advice we give our agents, but it's not because we want to have them dominate in a shifting market and the team needs to get bigger. It's literally about protecting people from this market. Yeah. Agents are just as susceptible to kind of what's happening and retreating and turtling up like anybody is. And I would just like to say, like, regardless of the show, like, I hope people who watch this also feel the same way, but like, I have gotten so much just from listening to you guys talk about this market and how you are leading people through it. And I hope people are hearing that, because it's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be the same shit you've done. And if you're just waiting to be right about the market changing, cool, you were right. Now that you've got that little ego boost, what the fuck are you going to do about making sure that your business survives this?
And it brings back the value to the real estate agents. There was value in 2020 right before the run-up, right? From mid 2020 through the end of 21 and into beginning of 22, I guess, that consumers didn't see the value in us, right? And that's when you started seeing the discounted brokers per se. I hate to use that word, but the brokers that really
Alternative pricing.
Yes.
No, look, here's the thing: let's
Yes.
actually call it what it was. Value-specific brokers.
Yeah, that's a
Oh,
good
there
way
you
to
go.
Real
put it.
estate
Ooh, I
agents,
like that.
real estate agents have done such a shit job of not talking about their value proposition, but actually providing it and following through with it.
Yes.
Understand, any one of you can snag a listing presentation from your broker and roll it out like that's all you're going to do. Right? Brian and I, when we first partnered up, we used to tell people about all the amazing thing the teams did, and then we like ran back and tried to figure it out. Right? Like the reality is, you can do that all day long, but value-specific brokers will all, and that is exactly what we are. Right? Like, I am speaking to the value of each individual client whenever we are sitting down, and if you don't understand how to do that, that is fine. A, learn. B, find somebody who can help you figure it out. Or C, get out of the way. I don't care what the option is, but stop looking at discount brokers and talking about them screwing your business over. They're not discount brokers. They're value-specific brokers. They brought the value to that client that you couldn't bring. And honestly, you just need to turn around and look at yourself. And if you think that's going to get easier, it ain't.
We have this thing in every market environment that we want to find the demon, right? Like,
Everybody likes to be right about the shit that's about to go wrong.
100%. Well, and when they kind of, or I say when they're wrong, and there's a new like bugaboo. I use that twice in one podcast. Or demon that shows up. They just stop talking about the old one. Like, the reality is, actually, maybe it's 2016 and 2018. That was what was going to destroy the real estate agent industry, right? Was discount brokers or whatever you want to call them, right? We actually haven't had. Has that been the topic of discussion since the pandemic?
No,
not really. Like, you're wrong. Like, not you are wrong, but the people that were all afraid of that were wrong, and then they just stopped talking about it, right?
One of the things that really brought this to the forefront was how quickly we were all like, think about this, guys. You were all trying to find cash options for your buyers 90 days ago.
Yes.
Do you really think that Homeward and all these cash option people are having people beating down their door now 90 days later? I'm not saying it doesn't still exist, but those business models are incredibly value specific. How those people are going to pivot into whatever their next, I'm sure they've got it figured out. They do. I'm not saying like they're smart, but my whole point being is everybody was running around trying to figure out this problem. Even to like 90 days ago, and how irrelevant did that become almost overnight?
6 weeks.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It doesn't take much for that value to change. And it's the same thing for you as a real estate agent. If you're not constantly pivoting, constantly having conversations, and constantly being able to address your clients in a way that matters to them, you're just fucking talking.
Well, I mean, the best, you're 100% right. And the best point that I think any of us can make on this show you just made, and that is, and I appreciate that.
Well, I took 30 minutes off, so I figured I'd jump back into something.
I appreciate that, talking about the way that Nick and I pivot a little bit. I don't get joy from having talked about this even on this podcast since last October. It doesn't bring me joy to be right in this particular regard.
But he was.
Right? There are a lot of people, if you just go on Facebook, you go wherever, how many people, or agents specifically, have been talking shift, doom and gloom in almost this weird ha-ha way? Yep. Like, you're seeing it now. You're seeing agents on all the major Facebook groups, probably even some in our group. They're like, I told you so. Congratulations. If your one takeaway from the fact that our market is fundamentally shifting and our industry is fundamentally changing and a lot of people are going to lose a lot and going to have to change careers and reimagine the visions for their life, then fucking congratulations. I hope that you show up for war every goddamn day like we are, because I know that I will, and I'm not gloating on the graves of other people's careers. So get your ass up at 5 like I do and show up ready to fucking battle.
Shirley definitely unplugged from that one.
Yeah, we might have lost some people there.
Yeah.
We do love you, Shirley, though. We appreciate it. We're just a bunch of stupid boys who need people to tell us when we're acting dumb.
Yeah.
Very passionate about what we talk about as well.
What is our absurd question that we can end with? By the way,
I'm looking through still.
we're gonna have to do a different day next week because I'm flying back.
I'm not gonna be here at all next week, because I'm going to Vermont.
I don't want to be here either.
Again?
Let's all
Do you
take
guys
the week off.
know anybody else?
We're gonna have to.
Shirley, You know what? Honestly, I'm going to make Shirley full-on friend of the show.
I think
Shirley
Shirley
you
is
stuck it out with
an
us.
unreal fan now.
You
I
called
really
us
appreciate
out
that
for
genuinely.
being jerks. You stuck here even after we posted your thing. You commented and saying thank you,
Yep.
and now you're still here.
She's top.
Shirley,
Yep.
will you den mother the heck out of us and like?
Send her a gift card.
I apologize for hurting yours, but I genuinely do appreciate you continuing to watch.
Yeah.
I
And-
know that this is probably not your cup of tea sometimes, but I very much appreciate you not tuning
If you
out.
promise to tune in next time, I will personally censor myself, and like as soon as I get ready to say a cuss word, I'll stop it and I'll say, "Shirley, I love you."
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it every time.
So becoming a bit now. For
I
the
do
rest of
appreciate.
the
I do
day,
appreciate you
so
sticking with us though, because
Yeah.
we are dumb boys.
Yeah.
All right, Jesse.
Well,
what do
there's
we
going to
got
be an
here?
absurd question here.
Yeah,
so give-
you might want to check out now. Shirley. It's about that stupid question.
But at least
Usually
leave us
gets
a
super off the
5-star
rails.
review.
Yeah. I know. I go to Vermont all the time. A, it's beautiful. B, I need constant coaching to understand how to be like even just like a regular human being.
Just say, like,
Who's
look,
the governor of Vermont?
I don't know.
But isn't it really Bernie Sanders?
I don't know.
It might
like,
not be, but
it
it
might
probably
not
is.
be.
what's the temperature there right now?
It'll be like in the probably the 50s at night. Like I don't want to sound like a Vermonter. Somebody Vermonter's going to jump in and be like, "You're an idiot." No, it's going to be beautiful. Like it's going to be. It's
Because
going
you know
to
it's going
be
to be 101 or 2
Yeah,
next
it's going to be 56 at night and probably 80 during the day. And all the grass up there has 0 fire ants, and it doesn't feel like sandpaper. So I'm going to be all right.
Ooh, I like this one. Actually, I do like this
I like this one.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
what
think
this one is.
This
I'm
is
usually
a Shirley approved one.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right. Would you rather have a tree in your backyard or your back garden that constantly produces every fruit in the world, and it's the best quality and the best conditioned fruit, or would you rather have a trained dinosaur of your choice to ride and do whatever you want?
Is this like
Such
a
a hard
question? Is
left
this like
turn
a
in the
weird
middle.
question from Super Mario 3 where they're like Yoshi eats the fruit, so they're trying to figure out which one they
they're
like better?
parlaying the two.
I know.
Okay, Phil Scott sounds like just the most basic dude. In the
Here's
Sounds
where,
like a golfer.
Here's where I come down on this. You're not telling me that anything about the world changes.
yeah.
I can still get delicious fruits at the store, honestly, that look better than anything I can grow either.
Dude, I'm getting a dinosaur.
Uglyfruits.com. I am going to ride around on a dinosaur all day long, and more specifically, it's going to be a Triceratops. And I'm going to dominate all of you.
But no, it's a trained. Why would you get a Triceratops?
Because he's got horns on his front, a shield on his face.
I don't. Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
I don't think Tyrannosaurus Rex could kill Triceratops.
Oh, yes, he could.
No, they couldn't.
Yes, he could. You know who we need
This
on the
is a
show for
whole-
this? We need Asher.
Is it just a?
I'm telling
why
you.
you don't think he could? You think Tyrannosaurus would win?
Yeah.
I don't think he's got the reach. Wasn't
No,
that,
no,
wasn't
I
that
think,
their thing?
dude. All the thing is, if the
Look at every Jurassic
Triceratops
Park.
just looks up.
Every Jurassic Park.
Oh,
T-Rex
all
wins.
of the
All
who
right,
would win?
you know,
in the fight?
Velociraptors just don't look like that either, though. Jurassic Park is a real trash rendition of what dinosaurs were.
I'm
capable
down with
of,
I'm
I
down with it.
think.
I'm just saying nobody knows, and I'm looking logistically at the face of a Triceratops, and I don't
Yeah.
know how a
Okay,
short-armed
here we
T-Rex
go.
does anything.
Would a
to it.
Triceratops? We got a whole A to Z animals.com is going to tell a Triceratops would beat a T-Rex in a fight. The answer might be surprising. Are we going to have to read this whole blog?
No, all you have to do is ask me. I'm a Triceratops fucking goddamn.
I think-
Sorry, jeez,
I
I
think-
doubled them up.
Yeah,
Whoa.
see,
I
Kenny-
I'm a Triceratops genius.
I think you could just do a tail whip, right?
Who?
The Triceratops does a tail whip, takes his legs out.
the T-Rex never
can't
gets
reach
his
him.
teeth on him unless
Well,
he
the
sneaks
T-Rex
up from
doesn't
behind.
need to reach him. He's
I feel
got
like
the
he's
the
got
jaws of.
insane core
The
strength. He could
Triceratops
just
looks
get
up.
down there.
The Triceratops looks up and he can't stab him.
Actually, this is a good.
Well,
one.
that's true. Matt and I have actually discussed this a lot. Matt and I got real deep. If you guys can ever find them in the annals of the internet, they don't exist anymore. So good luck finding them. We used to do reviews of taco.
I don't want to challenge
restaurants.
the internet to find our bad ideas.
And
though.
in one review of the taco restaurant, we were also talking about the Earth being flat. It was a Kyrie Irving conversation, and I did mention how bad we were going to get scoreboarded if we ever found out we were
Speaking
wrong.
of, no, we're not, because actually this is relevant today. Kyrie Irving is still out there nonsensically spitting his bullshit.
Man.
The other day on Twitter, Kyrie Irving went on a rant about how like he shouldn't he's a product of the earth.
Who is he?
And he's a basketball player.
Oh.
He's a product
Don't
of
look at
the
me like
earth.
that.
He's a product of the earth. And he shouldn't have to pay for anything. And like not just him in general, like him, but he was just like, we should all just, the whole earth should just be free for everybody. And it's like, dude, you got drafted from Duke at 18 years old. Like, I'm not saying you didn't struggle before that, but like your money situation, Shut up.
Probably should have gone to Duke until he was
This
at least
isn't even
22.
like
that
shut up
good?
and play basketball. This
No,
is
he's
just like,
fantastic. He just
no,
should
he's
have stayed in
amazing.
school
He just fucking yabbers at the mouth about whatever. And like he's like the world. Look, I agree with you. There should be a lot of things that are free. You're also not the person to like sit up there and talk about it, making $20 million a year, bro.
All I'm saying is that the WHO, the World Health Organization, if you just Google World
think
Health
with the
Organization lab leak theory, the WHO's probably also doing this too, is like super
Kyrie.
investigating the lab leak theory now. After 2.5 years, they're like, all right, maybe we were wrong. All I'm saying is a lot of people can think one thing for a very long time. 2 years is not 3 millennia, but man, if we ever find out the Earth is actually flat, we are going to be eating so much crow.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
gonna
It's
be
fucking round, dude.
It's going to be
There's no
so
way.
bad. Man, you think that, and you're probably right.
Yeah,
but if we ever find out we're wrong, we have been talking mad shit for a long time.
You know who does believe that the Earth is flat? Mortgage Mike.
He does.
Jesse, can I ask you really
Mortgage
fast
Mike of
before we do this?
Texas.com.
Do I have to? Does it always create fruit? Can I stop it from creating fruit?
I think it always
No,
creates
it always
fruit.
creates
That'd be an
fruit. That's what it
advantage.
says.
I'm not saying it's
cares?
because
I think
what
it
I'm
always
saying,
does.
I'm saying I don't want people to know I own a dinosaur because that's going to bring a whole other thing of problems into my life. That can you imagine being? You guys don't think these things through enough. You think that you're riding a dinosaur to work in a vacuum. Like no one's going to question this or care. Like your whole life isn't going to be upended by the fact that you're the only person on Earth who knows that dinosaurs are real,
No,
has
they're
one, chooses to ride it to work, and everybody else is just like, that's what Jeff does. He rides a dinosaur to work.
This fits fantastically in with my idea of being cooler than everybody
I
else.
don't want the amount of problems that's going to bring into my world. That's why you have to let E.T. go home, guys, because otherwise the feds show up, put your house in this weird fumigation thing, and ruin Halloween.
HomewardDFW.com.
MortgageMikeofTexas.com.
Armadillo.
Dot
DFW.
Armadillo.1/tour for the best home warranty company in the flat earth.
Shirley, we're so sorry.
Yeah, love you.
Bye.
Thanks for watching the show today. Make sure if you're watching this on Facebook, you head over to our group, the only real estate group we're being a part of, so you can watch the extended conversation. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you listen on the Apple Podcast, leave us a review. We'd really like it. So just do it. Do it. Do that over there. Go to this one. And then go to that one. Thanks.